you do not turn up and argue your side of the case, because turning up there may lumber you with costs. And there are one or two splendid Australian cases where Australian arbitrators took an extremely forthright view of the iniquity and impropriety of the challenge to their award and turned up in full panoply at court to argue it, and ended up on the losing side and paying very substantial bills of costs. So you don't want to do that. You write a polite letter saying you will abide by the decision of the court. Grovel, grovel, humble, humble. And if you do have anything useful to say, you say it in a single paragraph. If you need to go beyond a single paragraph, ask yourself whether you should be sending it at all. So that's a sort of further stage on. If you are in an ad hoc situation and you are skeptical about the money that might be forthcoming, then you could, of course, see if you can persuade the parties to put a deposit with a body that will hold money and administer it, even if they're not administering the arbitration. I don't know if the CIR does that. I do know that the LCIA does. And incidentally, Bill, I'm very grateful. I didn't know there was anything on the CIR website of that. What you should do with that getting paid. And I do commend it to you. It's probably more up to date than my approach. And you don't have to do it on a time basis. You can do it. You can set up your fees, obviously, on a stage basis, which may be easier to prove. You can do it on a lump sum. If you say, I get 1/3 now, thank you very much indeed, 1/3 at the start of the hearing, and 1/3 when you get the award. Again, nice and simple, nice and straightforward, and easy to enforce, or relatively easy to enforce. If they've signed up to that, it's difficult to see, unless something very odd has happened, why you shouldn't be able to get a summary judgment. Bill has covered very comprehensively all the things that you should include in your terms. The other points you need to consider if you're going to sue is, as I've just said, can you get summary judgment? Secondly, who is precisely resisting your claim? Why are they resisting it? What is the basis upon which they're resisting it? Did they agree? And if so, what's their problem? An important question, who has actually got any money? There's no point in suing a bankrupt party, not unless you want to spend a lot of time with Bill in his bankruptcy practice, which is expensive and hardly likely to be worthwhile, with respect, I would suggest. You may get into issues about disclosure, although strictly speaking you shouldn't. Your notes should be treated as confidential. Is there actually a genuine dissatisfaction on the part of the party, and is it worth trying to cut a deal? And I do offer you this advice if you sue, that £1 in the hand or €1 in the hand is worth 3 in a judgment, because if you've actually got it, you don't have to enforce it. And enforcement always takes time and costs money and hassle and stress. So always be prepared to cut a deal. I think that probably covers... Oh, if you're ordering security for costs under Section 19 of the Irish Act, then make jolly sure that the security covers any claim that you might ultimately be making for fees. That is an element which I think you should properly include in your security. But I don't really think that it's a terribly... The concept in principle, as Bill said right at the beginning, and I did think in these first 2 sentences he covered it, the concept in principle is extremely straightforward. You sue on a contractual basis in the normal way, and on a contractual basis in the normal way. There may be hiccups and bumps along the way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Extremely informative and enlightening talk on the topic, which is here to everyone's hearts. It's time for questions, and yeah, please.
Yes, Michael Stimson. Saved by the Bell.
Michael, do you always get that?
The phone over there was supposed to start first. Sorry. Is that a phone as well? Okay. We appoint arbitrators for various reasons, but the primary reason is for them to be able to tell us what we have contracted to do, to interpret the contract and come to a definitive view. Does it not cast a very big cloud of suspicion over the competence of an arbitrator if he doesn't actually get his terms and conditions nailed down and signed before he goes forward? I mean, how can that, why would you want to do that? I mean, I've known arbitrators in this jurisdiction, if the terms and conditions aren't signed, that's item 1 on the preliminary meeting. And the agreement is pushed across the table and the parties are supposed to sign it. And surely that should happen every time, and if that doesn't happen, then you simply don't go forward. Or am I taking too Taliban a view on that particular vista?
Well, there's nothing that cannot be argued, and I have successfully persuaded 3 judges of the Supreme Court that a seat in a theatre is airspace, not a structure in which you place your body with. That being held in Supreme Court judgment, which I argue myself as a point of law. And if you are appointed by an appointing body, for example, in my case, say the Law Society, and you are the arbitrator, once you accept the appointment, there's an argument you're then into the Magnus Magnuson have started so unfinished territory, and that you have to await, in the absence of being able to secure a written agreement with the parties, them ponying up a suitable bank draft or cheque or electronic transfer of funds when you say your award is ready and available. But if you haven't been appointed in those circumstances, do send out terms on which you are prepared to act, stipulating rates, etc. Again, you cannot force somebody into signing them. If one party just ignores the request, or if they simply refuse point blank, and they'll say we'll wait and see, having accepted the appointment, you have a difficulty because there's no provision as such to resign. And are you then going to be challenged on the basis of refusal to progress the arbitration? And under the model law, you have an obligation as the arbitrator to progress it.
Well,
I said it's a magical mystery tour yet to be undertaken, in my view.
I don't think it's a mystery tour, but I entirely agree. Once you have accepted, you're on board. If you can then get to agree terms, that's great. If not, you are stuck with Honorary. And the thing there are some institutions who appoint you in effectively an ad hoc role, their only role is appointment, do actually write to the parties and say X or Y has accepted appointment. And if that is indeed what you did, then you just have to try and persuade them by arm twisting and subtle threats of delay or not, and to sign your terms.
Well, I'm missing something here because the Chartereed Institute here has appointed arbitrators in cases that I've had. The very first thing the arbitrator does is to send out his terms and conditions. And I read them, and I think on at least 3 occasions I haven't agreed with 1 or 2 of them. And so we've written back and said, we wanted you to change this. And so there's a sort of contractual negotiation going on. I find it extraordinary, John, that you seem to be saying that if the arbitrator can't get his terms and conditions agreed, he's simply got to stay in post because he's been appointed. Well, surely that can't be right.
If he's accepted, if the letter says X or Y has accepted appointment, and I honestly can't remember how exactly the Chartereed Institute does it, but I have a feeling that if the process is this, and we'll pick you up in 2 minutes, and you can tell me that I've just got it all wrong, but that at least will guide everybody as to what not to do. My recollection is the party sends the cheque to the Chartereed Institute, asks for appointment. The Institute looks down its lists, closes its eyes, picks up its pin, and chooses somebody. They write to somebody and say, will you kindly accept this appointment? Somebody writes back and says, yes, I accept the appointment, thank you very much indeed, I have no conflicts, and I am so full of time available that we can do it tomorrow. And the Institute then writes and says, dear parties, X has accepted the appointment. If that's what has happened, then you're done. You've agreed. End of story. If you can get them to agree terms, great. If you can't, and it's always worth trying, and you can always not acknowledge that you are already appointed. The reality is the reality. Would you agree with that? Does your man in the corner agree with that?
Well, no, I was going to say I do agree with it because there is actually CIR guidance on the CIR.org website on dealing with reluctant or non-participating parties, and the guidance is firstly for what our colleagues in London quaintly describe as domestic arbitration, and the other is for UNCITRAL. The UNCITRAL one was written by Neil McNamee in 2011, and I have had to use it because on many small construction arbitrations, as I would deem it, you will invariably have, well, in more than half the cases certainly, a reluctant respondent. But it actually gives, to my mind, wise guidance on how to proceed in those circumstances. And contrary to what Michael here is saying, it doesn't require, that I can see, the prior written agreement of the two parties in order for the arbitration to proceed.
A major difference, so would be under the RAI form of contracts, and I've always seen this as a rather tricky one where you're actually only nominated by the President. There's no provision for a second nomination, and if the parties can't agree the fees at that stage, really actually the process should end in accordance with that arbitration clause and should go straight to the courts. So perhaps, Michael, an awful lot of your arbitrations will be under
There's
the
a distinction. There's a distinction between nominated and appointed. Nominated is offering the parties somebody, and if the parties turn somebody down, then I think the arbitration clause is still effective, and it's up to the appointing body, subject to the terms of the arbitration clause, to come up with another nomination. But that's the important, I think that's the important distinction. Have they nominated you for the post, decision still with the parties, still with you? Have they appointed you? Too late for all three.
Well, I must say I'm not convinced.
No,
because
Michael, the day that we agree about something is the day that the legal profession is out of work.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I'm not convinced. I'm not just going to say I'm not convinced and leave it at that. If you're first of all, the contract isn't with the CIR; it's with the arbitrator. Correct. The arbitrator says he accepts appointment, but surely that's subject to the implied term. I accept appointment, subject to my terms and conditions being agreed.
No, I don't believe that's an implied term. If you want that term, that's the way you phrase your acceptance. I will happily accept, and you can appoint me, provided they will agree to the attached terms. Fat chance the CIR will be writing to you again.
Well, that's another point. I mean, the CIR never write to me anyway, so it's not terribly convincing. I can't. If this came before a court, I could well see a judge saying, "Well, this has to be subject to the arbitrator's terms being agreed." But supposedly, because the very first thing, as I said, the arbitrator does do is put forward his terms and conditions. Suppose he said, "I'm going to charge." Yeah. I was going to picture you allow that. Yeah, supposing he said that. And nobody's going to agree to it. So he's stuck in post, has to continue, and then proceed on a quantum merit at some time later. Yeah. I mean, that's just the bags, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't matter. I think it's the way the law is. I'm moderately confident. I can't speak for the judges here, but I'm moderately confident that I can think of quite a few judges in London who would have no qualms at all with that thing. But you guys can speak as to the judiciary here and their willingness to protect arbitrators from their own idiosyncratic steps.
See, historically we've moved from a situation where it was a question of the arbitrator taking up the gudgeons, doing the job and then saying, my award is ready, fee please. And it was a quantumary territory. The practice has evolved and becomes more sophisticated to the point where an arbitrator will try and get their fees agreed at the outset. But it's down to the fundamental point again that John has mentioned. If you are appointed, you are the arbitrator. And you have been appointed without terms. You've been appointed on the historical basis of acting on a quantumary basis in the absence of prior agreement. So there's a certain element of bluffing involved on the part of arbitrators when they say item number 1, signature of the agreement.
And indeed, I saw a lovely letter the other day from a very experienced international arbitrator who said it's essential, he said, to have the first meeting face to face because one can obtain so much more effective leverage face to face than you can on the telephone, he said. And I think what he had in mind was ensuring that the fees, the terms he had set out were confirmed, agreed and signed. And he was absolutely right. It is a hell of a sight easier to do that in a face-to-face meeting than over the telephone.
Gentlemen, can I just press you one more time? I know I'm being a bit of a pain about this. Let's look at the other side of the coin. Supposing you say 15,000 an hour, and I say, no way, not going to accept that, and tell the Chartereed Institute, you've got to appoint somebody else, because we're not accepting that. We're not having this arbitrate. Are you then saying that you can nevertheless go ahead and then make an award and sue for those fees and totally ignore my point of view?
When you said we are not accepting that, were you speaking on behalf of one party or both parties?
Well, one party.
Well, what is the other party saying?
I should imagine 15,000 an hour, the other party would say exactly the same.
Well, if the two of you agree to remove the arbitrator, then you can do so. No problem at all. If the other party, reading your letter saying, we're not paying your outrageous fees, says, oh, right, good tactical point here, and writes and says, your fees are absolutely reasonable for this case, we are happy to agree with them. There you go. Alternatively, if you both write, and I have seen this letter, a joint letter from one party, I'm writing on behalf of both parties, we do not consider your terms acceptable. We propose the following terms. You're still in post, if I